Oh,
Thank you everyone for coming out tonight. I rehearsed my speech, so I'm just going to go with what I started with. We're very excited to have Rae Dalton with us this evening. The show has been a long time in the coming. Liz has always been part of our stable, but we've never had her as a solo artist here. Yes, and when I...
And thank you for having me. My goodness, yeah.
A couple of years ago I saw, well no, a year and a half ago, I saw this piece in her home and I thought, you know what, it's time. This is a stunning piece. I fell in love with it. And then you left us for a period of time and went down south.
Well, at that point I committed, I'm jumping in already. I committed to doing a show here over a year ago that featured water and sky.
Yes.
So this piece
really inspired me.
Yeah.
And then Liz called me and she said, you know, I've gone a different direction. And I thought, okay. That's okay, I'll come out.
Yeah.
But when she showed me this work, I was just in awe. It is so inspiring and it's just a whole other level for Liz. And I'm so proud to be showing it in our space.
Thank you. And I want to talk a little bit about it tonight because I'm losing my voice already a little bit, so bear with me. It's been a journey for me. I'll tell you a little bit about myself as background because not everybody knows who I am or what I've been doing for many years. I'm primarily a marine artist. That's what I've dedicated myself to in my work for over 25 years, maybe even a few years longer. I discovered marine environments here when I came to Queen's University and did my fine arts degree. The water inspires me, it sustains me. So I'm inspired by Lake Ontario, its history, Kingston waterfront, the river, St. Lawrence River. I live on the river, I live on an island. I'm inspired by the history of the river, the people from my island. Sarah Welsh is here, my history friend back there somewhere. It all inspires me, and every day I look at the river. The river runs through me in a sense, so I can't deny that in my work. It's part of what I do. And for many years I've explored the history and heritage of the river, especially through my marine studies that focus on watercraft. And they're wonderful to do, and I'm still doing them. What I want to do now with my work is take little departures now and again, and I'm calling it drifting. I want to be able to artistically drift, to challenge myself creatively, to continue to learn new things all the time. So that's what this body of work is about. About 3 years ago, or 4 years ago now, I retired from teaching, finally, and dedicated time to dedicate myself fully to my artwork. At the same time, with that shift in my life, there was some other shifting that went on, and that, as a result, seeped into my thinking about my work, and I needed to use those ideas in the work that I was creating. So the theme of navigation and journey, transformation, those big life questions that we think about sometimes, that started to preoccupy me with my work, and I decided I was going to really address those themes in what I was doing. So I created a body of work that, at that time, that was inspired by a great poem, great epic marine poem, called The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, and I'm still working on that series. And that series got me into a whole number of great projects, including portraiture. And again, that's work that I still have underway. So last year, when I committed to Kate to doing things that featured earth, sort of water and sky for my river environment, which I really wanted, it was an appealing thing to me conceptually because it allowed me room, literally endless vistas that I could work with, either out on the water or in the sky itself. So that I was very committed to, and it was one night on the river, we were out with friends in a boat, and I saw something happen with the sky. There was this dramatic storm front where two parts of the sky were colliding, and I took some pictures and I looked at them the next day and I thought, oh my goodness, I want to work with that. How can I do that? I knew that I couldn't do it with my oil paints. I just thought I've got to make a switch. I need something that really speaks strongly of texture. And I thought, I've got to get into my encaustic work. I had some experience in encaustics beforehand, but I knew I wanted to take a big plunge into it. which meant setting up my studio with equipment. There was a big learning curve, all new tools and materials. So I undertook getting all set up, and I started working with my storm. So this is one of the images here. This is a storm front. I've done a few of those pieces. One of them's here tonight, and very dramatic. And that's weather on the river, and that kind of weather, that storm, is the backstory or the backdrop for these driftwood pieces. The paintings that you see in encaustic are part of the story. They help explain the journey, the conditions of weather, the wind, the things that have shaped this wood. Perhaps this started with a storm somewhere in a shoreline. The tree fell, swept away in a current, to be transformed. Kind of a bit of a life metaphor going on here with me with this, because I think we all undertake journeys in life. We all do become transformed by the journey. So this was very conceptually interesting to me, and so I'm very closely tied to this way of working. It just worked so well conceptually for what I wanted to do. So I thought, okay, now I'm going to do these paintings. I'm going to speak about weather, the river, the journey, and then I thought, okay, I'm working with encaustic. I can put this encaustic on things that really explain journey really well. And I happen to have a driftwood collection outside my doorway, and I just decided that would speak really, really well for me through my work, really speak well about journey and my theme of navigation and transformation. So I just started working with my driftwood, did some research, figured out how to clean it. So I got some driftwood here tonight. I've got a nice big collection going at home. So I bleach it. It bleaches. It goes through a cleaning process, drying, and finally, when it's dry, I prime it, get it ready for the process. And the primer that I use is a special primer used for encaustic paint. It's highly, highly absorbent, very chalky. I feel like I'm in school, we can pass it around. Very chalky when you feel it. So it feels, so it's made by a company called R&F Encaustics. And that's where my supplies come from. They're high-grade artist materials. It's beeswax, purified beeswax with pigment and Damar varnish, which makes the piece harden over time. So again, if you're interested in encaustic work, you can look up R&F Encaustics. So I prime the piece, and then it gets primed with its first coat of wax. I put 3 coats of wax on before I start any color work. And each coat of wax, each time you apply a coat, I feel like Vanna White here. Each time you apply a coat, you need to fuse it or heat it. So this is what my husband's been listening to for the sound in my studio. So it has to be heated, either with a heat gun or a torch. Some heating process needs to meld those surfaces together. So that's my torch, and we'll talk about how important it is to feel these things later, to touch the work. So that's and then I start putting on layers of color. And the color goes on, again, one coating at a time, infused, until after many, many layers,